Good morning from Vancouver. Thank you for coming for our webinar. After 5 years of webinars, I'm very happy to continue and give good topics to audience around the world. Today, we'll talk about laboratory-grown diamonds, screening challenges, and we have a special guest and speaker from US, Guy Borenstein from Stuller. Good morning, Guy, and thank you for coming to our webinar. I hope you can hear us.
Good morning, Branko.
Yes. I met Guy, I think, at least 10 years, or maybe more, 15 years, at one of the Tucson shows. We were exhibiting at the FGA. At that time, he was working for Gemewizard with a famous Israeli gemologist, Menachem. And of course, we exchanged our experiences because he was also a guy was working in gem labs in Israel. And he was with Menachem, he was one of the instructors and speakers at the Mediterranean Gem and Jewelry Conference in Montenegro, 2018. For last year, I think almost a year now or more, you are a Stuller senior gemologist and in charge of a laboratory there and in charge of developing screening protocols for all diamonds. You will tell us more about this in your lecture that is coming in a few minutes on very interesting topic, how to choose the right instrument, what is your experience and what is on the market. And I think all our appraisers and gemologists and jewelers have questions. What instrument to use? I have this kind of diamond, I have melee, I have mounted, I have type 2A diamond, what to do? And it's very, very interesting and hot topic. And I'm teaching this in 17 countries on 4 continents. The last one was just 2 weeks ago in Tucson. It was sold out workshop, 20 people. I was teaching in the morning and Laura Kiefert, my colleague from Germany, was doing gemstones in the afternoon. And we really played with the 5-6 instruments that I had there. And some of them you will see today at Guy's presentation. So one of the things that I mentioned, and this is my last slide before Guy start to take over, is not only that people are misrepresenting laboratory-grown diamonds as a natural happens, but my experience also is a positive. A lot of people who are growing diamonds, disclosing it immediately, and lasering, of course, it's a big part of my business here. Certification and lasering laboratory-grown diamonds, nothing wrong with that, as long as they are disclosed, of course. This is a case where a local woman just 3-4 weeks ago, just before Tucson, went on the Facebook and want to buy a diamond, and it was this kind of description on the top. That is over carat diamond. You can see on the top right, it was a 132 carat diamond with a GA report, laser inscription. You go online, you can see the diamond exists. And diamond was laser inscribed. This is very interesting with GA number, and it even appraised at the local jewelry store. The problem was that she paid $5,000 for this, and it was a moissanite laser inscribed as a diamond. You can see easily, hopefully you can see on the bottom right, the doubling of the facets. And of course we can, it was nicely cut, hearts and arrow. So this is a problem that we're facing, not only that we are mixing laboratory-grown diamonds with synthetic, they're mixing moissanites and trying to present. And this is happening not every day, of course, but does happen. So what we'll do now, I will give you a host to my colleague Guy. He will take over and he will present his topic, and what you hopefully will do, ask questions to Guy. On the bottom you see a Q&A button. You just basically type your question, and approximately Guy will talk about 50 minutes to maybe 1 hour. It's very big topic, and then I will read these questions to you and continue with some more information about upcoming conferences in Australia, Italy, online gemology, what I'm doing, and Guy was part of this in the past advanced gemology program, so he can tell also his experience. So Guy, please take over, and we are looking forward to your lecture.
Thank you very much, Branko, and thank you everyone for joining. I see here colleagues from almost all continents, so thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about lab-grown diamond screening challenges. And when I'm saying screening challenges, I'm going to say we're going to talk about all the truth, the things that usually manufacturers will not tell you about the performance of their tools. I will start with one spoiler. There is no magic solution. There is no black box that can do it all. Every machine that we are going to talk today has some limitations, some weaknesses, some blind spots, and we are going to cover it. So I hope that eventually you will be able, after seeing this presentation, to know what works best for your business. So a bit about what we are doing at Stuller and from where we are exactly taking all of our knowledge base. So Stuller today is running a very impressive, very wide screening arsenal that includes 64 total different screening, 15 different types, 11 different technologies. We have more than 30 associates that running it, and we are screening 10 million diamonds annually. We are screening everything from half a pointer and above. In addition to that, we have a strategic agreement with GIA that runs a melee analysis service within Stuller facility. And this is a process that runs by GIA personnel. It's not our work, it's GIA work with their personnel, their equipment, and they are giving us services of screening of natural diamonds. And in addition, all of the referrals that we are getting from either our screening array or the GIA room, we are using high sophisticated instruments in our Stuller Gemological Laboratory, all the spectrometers that needed, all the imaging machines that could be useful to identify the origin of natural and lab-grown diamonds. And when I'm saying identify, I mean not only whether it's natural or lab-grown, also the growth method and any post-growth treatments that were involved in the process. In addition to that, in recent years, we also started to take a new stand of pioneers in the industry, and we are trying now also to run our own researches and to contribute from our knowledge to show what we are finding in these millions of diamonds that we are testing. This is a partial list of articles that we are currently offered on the leading journals, and also there are others that are currently under peer review. So let's talk a bit about natural and lab-grown diamonds just to understand what we see in the market. So when we're talking about natural diamonds and we're looking on the way that they are being formed in nature, we can see that they have a very specific shapes that we can find them: octahedron, cube, macula. Of course, not always we will find them perfectly as we see here in the picture, but this will be also their structure when we're talking atomically. When we're looking on the distribution of color and clarity, we can see that in color, most of the colors are in between the D to Z. We can say that around N and O, this is most of the goods in the market, where D becoming rarer and also everything that going towards fancy colors. In clarity grades, we see that most of the stones are included, and as long as we are getting closer to the VVS quality, we see them becoming rarer. Usually, if we will look under microscope, the inclusions that we will find in these stones will be what we call feather-like fractures and crystal inclusions. On the other hand, lab-grown diamonds have different ways that they are being grown. We have HPHT, high pressure, high temperature, and we have CVD, chemical vapor deposition. Both techniques showing us different shapes in the rough state. One of them, the HPHT, creating for us what we call the cube octahedral. This is the upper image that you see here. And CVD is giving us the tabular square or octagon shape. Also, there is one from Lucix that creating kind of a pyramid, square pyramid shapes. But these are the shapes that we can find for CVDs. If we are looking on the color and clarity distribution, we see that most of the goods today in the market are towards the DEF colors and VVS, meaning that it's becoming very rare to find today lower or even medium quality of lab grown. Everything was masterized to the best performance. What we can find in these stones is sometimes feather-like inclusions that are similar to naturals, and also other inclusions that related to their process that we will talk about it in one of the following slides. Now, when we're looking on these roughs, we know for sure that it's very easy to differentiate between the stones. But once they are polishing, especially when we're talking about the higher qualities, they're becoming identical to the unaided eye, and sometimes even the most experienced gemologists cannot distinguish between the two. And this leads us to some disclosure issues that we see a lot in the market. First of all, just some statistics. In 2021, lab-grown diamonds global production was estimated at nearly 10 million carats. It means that if we are looking on the global production, which is around 100 million, we can roughly say that 1 out of 10 new diamonds in the market was a lab-grown. Now just try to think about a ring that you sold over the last year that had more than 10 milli diamonds inside. Statistically, one of them could have been lab-grown. Second is that we see that size is not a factor anymore. And if we are looking on the sizes that lab-grown diamonds can be grown today, we can safely say that everything up to even 5 carats is possible. And last but not least, melee contamination is seen often. And when I saying seen often, I'm talking about my own experience. We are testing millions of diamonds every year, and almost every other parcel that we are getting from our vendors has some undisclosed stones inside. It could be natural within lab-grown parcels. It could be lab-grown within naturals. And this is even stronger than what you think, because Stuller demand from all of its vendors to do a preliminary screening before they are sending it to us. So this is after their preliminary screening. Try to think what happens with vendors that are not doing any screening. So before talking about how you can do it in your laboratory, I want to first of all break several myths here. So we need to get rid of all the old tricks and the tools that you used to use. The first one is testers. When I'm saying diamond testers, I mean to the old handheld thermal and electrical conductivity based probes that you used to use in your jewelry store. They are not only ineffective, they are even fooling you. And let me explain a bit about it. These devices were invented in order to differentiate between diamonds and other minerals. Lab-grown diamond is the same mineral as natural diamond. It means that it will react the same as diamond. More than that, some of the new lab-grown diamonds that we will mention later can even fool these machines and get a moissanite reaction. So I highly recommend stop using these tools. Second, for those of you that relying on reports, I think that Branko just gave a great example of a common fraudulent activity that can be found in the market, where some fraudsters are just buying empty reports of stones that were already being sold. They just have the paper, and now they just take one of their lab-grown diamonds, repolishing it to fit the measurements inside the report, adding their own inscription, and here you go. You have a lab-grown with a natural report. And the last thing is, as just mentioned, inscriptions. Laser inscription is something that many are still relying on, looking at the loop saying, okay, no problem, there is a GA report for that. Just reminding you that the price for a laser inscription machine today is starting from $30,000. It's not a lot for someone that is trading with diamonds. So anyone can do its own inscription, can forge laboratories inscriptions, or can even go to a diamond polisher and erase whatever it doesn't like. What we are going to talk now is about screening techniques and technologies that actually work. Things that you can use and can feel more confident. Again, none of them is perfect, but you will find many of them useful. We will start with some visual techniques. So first of all, let's look on natural diamonds. And natural diamonds has very common scene that we can see. First of all, we see in every lab-grown diamond, in every natural diamond, feather-like fractures. The feather-like fractures, as you can see here, these are actually cracks with a pattern that resemble a bird feather. Now, we cannot rely on these cracks at all, because any material in the world could develop a fracture. Do not rely on that saying, okay, this diamond is highly fractured, everything is okay. No, there are still some lab-grown, mainly of old generation production, that are circulating in the market that showing many fractures. Second, we have the geometric crystals that we can find inside the diamonds. Some of them will be with or without discoid fractures or halo or tension cracks, whatever you call it. These are very good indication for natural origin, because till now there was no report on any lab-grown diamond that's showing geometric crystal inclusion inside it. We can see some rounded things or irregular shaped, but not geometric with prisms, prism faces. The third one is irregular black inclusion. These are actually traces of graphitization within the stone. These are not diagnostic for natural diamonds, because they can be found also in some lab-growns. And the last one is what gemologists used to call breadcrumb-like tiny inclusion, or pinpoints, or things like that. It's a kind of a vague name for everything that is too small to be identified. And of course, because it's too small to be identified, we cannot know its nature, so we cannot rely on that. So if we are looking on all of this natural diamond inclusion scene, the only thing that can give you some confidence is the geometric crystals. When we are looking on HPHT grown diamonds, we see usually fluid-like metallic tubes. This is the most common inclusion that you will find in HPHT diamonds. They will usually show you some metallic sheen. Also, you can find some metallic surface rods. Sometimes they're in the shape of triangle. What's really important about them is that they have these edges that you can see here on their surface, and many times they are surrounded by a big stress crack. Also, we can see some thin semi-transparent films. They are so thin that light can go through them, and they will show us also metallic sheen, or finding some irregularly shaped, highly reflective metallic inclusions. But as you can see, all of these inclusions has one thing in common, which is this metallic reflection, metallic sheen that you can see. And this one is not found in natural diamonds. So once you see these inclusions, this is a very good indication for a lab-grown origin. If these metallic inclusions are big enough, they can even be attracted to a magnet. Here I can give you a kind of a tip. You can look over the internet for something that's called N52 magnet. N52 or neodymium 52 magnet. This is the strongest non-electrical magnet that is available on Earth. It's a rare Earth element, and it can be very useful for you to check. Just reminding, it's working only when the inclusions are very big. If they are tiny, you won't see any effect. For CVD, what we usually see are minute, irregularly shaped, or sometimes they are in square-shaped black inclusions. This is the most common inclusion that you can find in CVD grown diamonds. For some manufacturer products, you can even find several of these inside the stone. Others are have a better, careful process, so you maybe see only one and very tiny. Also, another thing that you can find inside the stone is a kind of a plane that's running throughout the stone, crossing the stone from one side to another, which is built from many tiny dots, or sometimes they are looking like tiny needles, all of them pointed to the same direction, that creating a kind of a plane. This is actually a result from a problem that happened during growth. Many CVDs that are being grown during the process, we are sometimes need to stop the process to remove some graphitization that happened on the surface or polycrystallization. And when we are doing that, sometimes if we are bringing the stone back to the reactor, this abrupt change create a kind of a different phase between the previous growth and the new growth, and we see this plane that left there. Also, another thing that we see in many CVDs is the black graphitization within the fracture. And for CVDs that were post-growth treated with HPHTs, sometimes we can see, mainly in surface reaching cracks, some patterns that resembling the fingerprint-like heel fractures that we usually see in colored stones. Now, the problem with all of these inclusions that I showed you is that none of them is diagnostic. All of them can be found in natural stones as well. So with CVDs, we can only suspect. Another way to identify a lab-grown that you have, as we said before, inscription is not something that we can rely on. But if we have some inscriptions that are straightforward and are, let's say that they are not illogical to be used because it's actually a decrease in the stone value, we can feel assured that we have a lab-grown in our hand. Usually it could be either lab-grown or LG, or if we are looking on specific brands, we have the WD lab-grown diamonds. They are using their own motto, grown in the USA by WD. Or we can look on the Lightbox brand by De Beers. They are using a subsurface inscription on the table facet. It means that this is an inscription that you cannot polish out, and they're using their own logo. again, below the surface of the table facet, not the girdle. Another thing that just learn about from Branko is that Diamond Foundry used to use the acronym DF on their stones. So if you see DF with a number, it could be Diamond Foundry. Now, except for looking under magnification, we have another technique that we can use. It's called cross-polarized filters. When we are looking on stones through magnification, the stone usually looks for us crystal clear. But actually, there are many tiny stresses within the atomic structure there that can be revealed when we are putting the stones in between two cross-polarized filters. I'm not going to deep dive into that too much because Randy Lightfoot gave here a previous webinar that I highly recommend to all of you to watch, how to use this technique and how it can be identified. I will just mention that Stuller is offering a kit to use this technique. This kit was developed by Branko, our host, and it can be very useful. I can tell you that sometimes while I'm using many high-level spectrometers, sometimes this technique is the only way that I can differentiate between growth methods or identify a natural origin. So this is a very good, useful, and affordable tool. How it works, once we're putting the stones between the polarized filters, we see some shadows inside the stone, and the pattern of them could help us to identify the stone. If we are looking on natural stones, we can see some shadows, colorful shadows inside the stone. The best way to explain what you expect to see in natural diamonds is just a mess, a big mess inside of many shadows, no specific pattern, many colors, many interferences of the light. Some natural diamonds, the rarer ones that called type 2A, usually show us what we call tatami-like structure. It's a kind of a crossed-hatch structure, as you can see at the below image. HPHT, on the other hand, stay completely clear. No strain at all. No stresses inside. It's perfectly grown. Something that we will not find in nature. Sometimes maybe you will see a little bit of stress surrounding an inclusion. This is actually elastic deformation of this area. It's just the inclusion that creating stress on the host rock. But usually everything will be crystal clear inside. And when we're looking on CVD, most of the CVDs in the market will show you columnar or crossed hatch pattern. You see, this is the columnar, this is the crossed hatch. But I will here just mention that there are some CVDs on the market, specific manufacturers that creating stones that giving different patterns. Some of them are very difficult to distinguish from the natural mess. So, as you can see, except for specific cases like the geometric crystals in naturals or the metallic sheen in HPHT, we commonly see that magnification is inconclusive. So we need to add more advanced screening techniques that will allow us to differentiate between the naturals and the lab growns. And for that, we are going to some areas that are non-visible to our eye. We are using some new energies, new tools that can excite the diamond and give us more information that we usually cannot see with the unaided eye. So what we're going to do now, we are going to cover all of these tools. Each one of them, we will explain how it works and what is good for, what is bad for. Before deep diving into that, let's understand how natural and lab-grown diamonds form and how it affects the results. So natural colorless diamonds are growing over billions of years, and the key word here is billions. Why it's important for us? Because when diamonds are being formed, they have some impurities inside them. Usually the most common impurity is nitrogen. Now, these isolated atoms of nitrogen are sitting all around the atomic structure. But during a course of billions of years, these atoms migrate within the atomic structure, and they are looking for other nitrogen defects to connect together, to bond together and create pairs. Later, it can even grow to triplets or even 4 nitrogen atoms together. But this movement from isolated to aggregated defects, it's a process that takes billions of years. It's something that we cannot do in a lab. We can, let me rephrase myself. We can do it in a lab, but it's not commercially viable in a way that you will find it in the market. It's just under experiments because it's a very long, intensive process for each stone. 98% of the natural diamonds has this aggregation within them. And this aggregation creating for us a few, a few properties that will help us to identify them. First of all, third of these diamonds will fluoresce in blue under long wave UV. Most of them, almost all of them, has long wave stronger than short wave. And if you are taking these stones and put them under deep UV, it's a very strong energy, very strong. It's a shorter wavelength than the usual short wave UV that we're using in a lab. If we're using this deep UV, you will see that all of them fluoresce blue to greenish blue, and they are even drawing for us on their surface their natural origin structure of the stone. This is the technology that is used, for example, in diamond view. On the other hand, lab-grown diamonds are grown in a very short process, several hours to a few weeks. I don't want to get too much into the processes. I think that previous webinars here given by some of the growers themselves are much better than any explanation that I will give about it. But what's really important for us is to remember that HPHT is being grown in up to 24 hours. CVD takes up to 3 weeks. So these stones for sure do not have the time to develop this aggregation of nitrogen. Usually they are nitrogen free, or let's say with nitrogen below the detected level. And because of that, they have different reactions to the ultraviolet energy. If we are putting them under long wave UV, they rarely glow. Under short wave UV, they will glow in orange, yellow, green, or red. Same colors could be also found in long wave UV, but usually short wave will be stronger than long wave. Some new products in the market showing shortwave and long wave at the same intensity. So it could be a little bit tricky to identify. But still, most of the goods that we are seeing are shortwave stronger than long wave. Some of these, let's say 95% of the HPHTs and some of the CVDs have also another property called phosphorescence, which means they continue to glow after the light source has been turned off. And usually this phosphorescence is very long, more than 10 seconds, and noticeable to the unaided eye. It's mainly seen in HPHT stones. Some CVDs that have been HPHT treated for prolonged time can show it too, but usually the color will be the same. It will be a kind of a greenish blue color, but it will take them a shorter time to decay. If we are putting them under the deep UV energy, the diamond view energy, what we will see is, as you can see here on the right side, a kind of variety of colors, almost every color in the spectrum except for blue, because as we said, the blue is created from the nitrogen aggregation. So in order to be fully covered and be able to identify any lab-grown diamond in the market, you need to have all of this machine that you see here at the bottom, just mentioning it quickly: FTIR, deep UV, UVVs near infrared, Raman with photoluminescence and the ability to use liquid nitrogen, fluorescent spectroscopy, and of course also magnification. If we are going on the affordable models in the market, we are starting from $100,000. And this is before talking about the deep scientific knowledge that someone needs to have. Therefore, usually they are not practical for the common retail jeweler. And this is why we are using what we call screeners, or sometimes called DVI, diamond verification instruments. These are actually simplified version of the spectrometers that you just seen that were devised to identify only one or sometimes two features of diamonds and give us a kind of a yes-no separation whether this feature is there. They cannot identify every diamond. They can only do for us a kind of first sorting, telling us these are surely naturals or surely synthetic, and the rest need to be referred for further advanced testing. So once you're buying a screener, it doesn't mean that you are fully covered. Many of the stones that are maybe okay and they are exactly as disclosed will just give you a refer, and you will still need to continue your investigation. So let's talk a bit about what an instrument should do. The instrument should be able to identify for us both HPHT and CVD. It should also be simple to operate. Not everyone here is a scientist. It should also be inexpensive, because we are talking here about a small jewelry store. It must work on all sizes, all shapes, all colors. And we need to get fast results. And the most important thing, it should work on both loose and mounted stones, especially for a store. How many instruments can do it all? None. This is why we need to understand each machine has its weaknesses, call it blind spot, call it limitation. And we need to understand it. The information that we are going to talk now are things that will not be mentioned in the manufacturer manual, because they are not exactly complementing the machine. But it's very important for you, the operator, to be aware of these. So the first technology that is used to differentiate between natural and lab-grown is the easiest one: long-wave and short-wave UV fluorescence. You can either use one of these strong, big cabinets that have complete darkness inside and have both light sources, both long-wave 365 nanometer and shortwave 254, sometimes it's called 253.7 or 0.8. Or you can use specific tools like this jewelry inspector that is built specifically just for this test. It's much smaller, so it means that the light source is closer to the stone and react stronger. And also it has some magnification. If you remember at the beginning of this presentation, there were images of blue diamonds, blue fluorescing diamonds from one of our researchers. These images were taken through this device, and you can also find it in Stuller offering. So in this technique, we are checking the fluorescence effect under long wave and short wave energies. We expect to see for naturals either nothing or blue, while for lab grounds we expected to see other colors and maybe phosphorescence. So let's have a look on the results that we are going to get from this machine. First of all, under long wave UV, we're expecting to see blue reaction, could be in in different intensities, or it could be completely inert. Under short wave UV, we will see the same effect, usually weaker. Yet, we can find many stones that will be with other reactions, and all of these cases, including the inert reaction, are not necessarily can be identified with this technique. If we are looking on HPHT, under long wave, we're expecting to see no effect at all, or sometimes weak orange effect. Under shortwave UV, if it's strong enough, you will see green or bluish green neonic color, very strong usually, and it will be, of course, stronger than the long wave. Once you will turn off the shortwave UV, the stone will continue to glow in this greenish color, usually more than 10 seconds. If we are looking on CVD, under long wave UV, we will see green, orange, yellow, all of these non-blue colors. It will be the same result under shortwave UV, but always the shortwave UV will be stronger. Most of the CVDs in the market will be completely inert in both sides, but some of them will give these reactions. Of course, we cannot identify it because it's the same as in the naturals. Synthetic moissanite will stay inert all the time under any source, and cubic zirconia will look inert under a long wave UV and weak mustard yellow under shortwave UV. Of course, still we cannot differentiate it from the diamonds. The second technique that we have is called shortwave UV internal transmission or reflection. It depends on the model that you are using. You see all of these models here on the right. The top row and also the one, the gray box at the bottom, all using what we call internal transmission. The other handheld device using internal reflection. The idea is that all the stones that are type 1, those with the nitrogen aggregation, are usually blocking any UV, shortwave UV energy from moving throughout the stone. Every shortwave UV energy that will get into the stone will be absorbed. So what we are doing, we're actually using the stone as a kind of a filter to see whether a shortwave UV is moving throughout the stone, meaning that this is a stone without nitrogen aggregation, we call it type 2, or whether the light was completely absorbed inside the shortwave UV light, and then this is a type 1A, which is a nitrogen aggregation, meaning billions of years old, hence natural. Some of these devices, the Presidium SDS2, Presidium ARI, and the Gemologist Belize are available through Stuller. So how these devices are working? When we're putting type 1A stone inside, we are getting an earth mined or diamond depending on the instrument that you are using. This means natural diamond. If we are putting type 1A of some fancy shapes, we see mainly the issues with princess cuts, emerald cuts, and some elongated marquee and oval, or if we see hydrogen-rich stone or stone with irradiation damage, we can see other results. They could be either refer or moissanite, depending on the model that you are using. But remember that refer is still okay. It can be verified later. Moissanite can fool us. So you need to be very cautious in some of these reactions. When we're using on type 2A, usually everything is okay. It's being referred either with CVD HPHT type 2A reaction or with refer reaction. But if it's an HPHT treated, some devices, again, will identify it incorrectly as moissanite. Usually the issue is with the handheld reflected ones. The next one, HPHT. When we're putting type 2A inside, everything is okay. It's being referred as expected. But if we see a type 2A with high boron levels, which actually changing the atomic structure inside the stone from type 2A to a mixed type or even a colorless 2B, we are getting different results. If it's with low levels, or usually transmission devices are doing better performance here, you will get the right refer reaction. But if you are looking on something with very high levels of boron, you can get moissanite or even sometimes earth mined or natural diamond reaction. Now, for my personal experience, these high boron products becoming more and more common in the market. So they are actually threatening the performance of these technologies. When we're looking on CVDs, we don't have this problem if they have some contamination of boron inside. It's usually of very low level, so we are still getting the refer results from all machines. If we are looking on synthetic moissanite, it depends on the device that we are using. If it's a device like the ones that are working with transmission, then it will be referred, meaning that we still don't know what we have. We still don't know that this is a non-diamond thing. If we are looking on the handheld device, usually they have the option also to differentiate between moissanite and the diamond, because they are using two different light sources. So in this case, it will be identified correctly. If we are using it on cubic zirconia, we have a problem, because cubic zirconia absorb the light the same way as natural diamond. So cubic zirconia will be identified as natural diamond in these machines. It means that this machine must be supported with another, even the basic diamond tester, just to make sure that we are not testing for zirconia. The only exception for this case is the Gemologist Belize, which has two tips on its end. One of them is actually a diamond testing conductivity probe tip. So this will allow us also to differentiate and identify the cubic zirconia very easily. The next technology that we're using is called fluorescence and phosphorescence imaging. This is a very common technology too. As you can see here at the right hand side of the image of the slide, you can see that there are many devices like this. I just took the leading models that you can find in the market, but there are more of these. Two of them, the OGI diatrue, can be purchased through Stuller. In this technique, we are using the deep UV energy, the very strong energy that caused almost every diamond to fluoresce, even if it's not fluorescing under a long wave UV. And we are looking on the color and we are looking on the phosphorescence, and these allow us to identify, to interpret the image and identify the diamond origin. If we are putting type 1A diamonds into these machines, they usually will give us either blue or greenish blue color. The most important thing here is that blue is the leading color. It could be of different intensities, but always blue will be the leading one. If the stone is nearly pure type 1AA, a subtype of 1A, or it's with high levels of hydrogen, it will give us yellow to green reaction. This is something that we cannot immediately identify as natural diamond. Same thing with type 2A. Type 2A will give us many different shades. It could be anything from yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, violet, yellowish green, everything that is warm shade. If we are putting HPHT into that, we will see the same neonic green color or bluish green color that we've seen in the shortwave testing. In this case, the green will be the dominant color compared to the blue dominant leading color in the naturals. Most of these machines has an automatic marking for us that help us to identify these lab grounds. They're using a kind of red marking that they are adding on the image. The red marking could be on the entire stone, like here, or on some partial area of the stone. This red marking is coming from phosphorescence. They're actually checking whether there is phosphorescence on this stone after the light was turned off. And if they identify phosphorescence, they are adding red marking at the same point in the previous image. Now, as we said, 95% of the HPHT has this long-term phosphorescence, but there are 5% that don't have it. So you need to be aware that not all HPHTs will show you this red marking. Also, you need to remember that if you have two stones that are sitting together within the machine too close to each other, sometimes one of them has phosphorescence and it's glowing, and this glow reflecting on the surface of the other neighboring stone. The machine will not know to differentiate reflection from a real glow, and it will mark both of them with red marking. So always remember to keep, especially with loose stones, keep them with a bit of distance between them when you are testing. CVD can show us many, many different colors. It could be the same colors that you will see for type 2A, pure 1AA, or hydrogen rich. Therefore, we cannot identify CVD with this technique. Some of the new software that these manufacturers are offering with their machines, also adding red marking on CVDs. I highly recommend not relying on this red marking. I recently did a test on all the leading models of all manufacturers, and all of them failed and identified some naturals with these colors as CVD, and some CVDs with these colors were identified as natural. So this feature in the software is still premature, and I highly suggest not relying on that. Also, some CVDs that have been treated by a very prolonged HPHT treatment, they will react the same as HPHT. What actually happened here, they were contaminated by some boron from the reactor in the HPHT post-growth treatment. It's still very low level. We are talking about maybe 1 particle per million, but it's enough to create this effect that will look like HPHT. Usually, they will not have the red marking on them because the phosphorescence will be very short. Synthetic moissanite will react the same as under long wave and short wave UV. It will keep being inert. And cubic zirconia, it depends. Most of the cubic zirconias in the market will show you green reaction, but the green will be in a pattern of green rim and black core compared to the green that you are getting from natural hydrogen-rich stones. Some rarer cubic zirconias, those that have high amount of oxygen vacancies, will show you blue rim with dark core. This could easily be misidentified as natural diamonds by inexperienced operator. So this is why I always say look also on the pattern side. Blue diamonds usually will show you that the entire stone is blue, and if the core is a bit weaker than the rim, then the border between them will look jaggy or spiky. But with cubic zirconia, it will just look like a ring. Now, these manufacturers always claim that their machine can work also on some simulants. But when they are saying simulants, they are talking only on cubic zirconia and synthetic moissanite. So I took several colorless gemstones that are available in Stuller gemstone inventory and did some tests, and these are the results that I got. You can see the color that they got, and you can see in the right column what it can be confused with in the system. And all possible reactions can be found here. Natural, HPHT, CVD, HPHT treated CVD, cubic zirconia, and moissanite. Now, the tip that I can give you here, you are all experienced gemologists or jewelers. You know how a diamond looks like under a loupe, of course, compared to a gemstone. So before putting a colorless stone into these machines, first of all, take the stone, look under the loupe, make sure that you see something that looks like a diamond, and then proceed. The next technology that we are talking about is what we call fluorescence spectroscopy. There are two machines that are offered in the market. We have the GIID 100 that can be found through Stuller, and we have the EXA by Magilabs. These two machines are working on, these are actually spectrometers that looking for one specific defect that's called M3 that created by this nitrogen aggregation and can be seen by using very strong long-wave UV source. Now, the difference between these two machines is that the GIA is straightforward. It's just working automatically. The EXA has two options. One, to work automatically and giving the system the option to decide whether it's passing, meaning natural, or referring, or to go to advanced mode where you are looking on the full graph and interpret it by yourself using some database that they have there. So the results that we are getting, if we are looking on type 1A stones, we will just get pass. But if we're using any other type, whether it's a type 1A, nearly pure 1AA or hydrogen rich, or type 2A, or HPHT, or CVD, or simulants, for all of them, you will get refer. It means that getting refer here is very common, and you still need to verify what you have in your hand. I just mentioned that EXA has an advanced mode. So in this case, I will say that some of the type 1A cases and some of the CVD cases and cubic zirconia can be identified through the EXA with the advanced mode once you are skilled with the use of it. But other things, most of the HPHTs, type 2As, synthetic moissanite are not possible and still being referred. Other screening methods that I will just mention in brief. We have the phosphorescence decay. This is a patented technique devised by De Beers used in the device called SynDetect. And over there, they are checking the phosphorescence of the diamonds in milliseconds. Apparently, the diamond is changing colors of the phosphorescence in very short time frames that we cannot see it with our eye. So in this case, we can record it, these milliseconds, see the different colors, and accordingly identify the stone. It's very good to identify naturals, but it misses some of the post-growth treated CVDs, and some of the simulants can react like naturals. The second technique is UV spectroscopy. This is known also as diamond cure. This is a UV-Vis spectrometer that was devised to check whether there is nitrogen aggregation or not, meaning type 1A natural diamond. It's identify natural diamonds very easily and giving you pass, but it refers all the rest, so you cannot identify lab-grown diamonds from it. And also some simulants can do some troubles there. And the last thing is what I called multi-technology screening. These are devices that combine several different technologies from the ones that I mentioned and doing a series of tests. The advantage in this case is that, of course, the risk for error is reducing dramatically, and they are very accurate machines, but usually it's coming on the expense in the price. So just to mention a few machines that we can find with multi-technology screening, we have the Alrosa Inspector by the Russian company Alrosa, and we have the AMS2 by De Beers, and also the ASDI by SSCF. So which instrument to buy? I cannot answer that. You are the only one that can answer for yourself. You need to ask for yourself several questions. Are you going to test loose or also mounted jewelry? Because some devices cannot do both. Single item every time or volume to be tested? Because if you need to check now parcel of 100 stones, it's better to take something that can work on volumes. Do you need to be manually tested or automatic feeder? Do you need it also to identify simulants, or you have your own way to do it? What is the skill set of your operator? Is he a graduate gemologist or someone completely green in this industry? And are you a person that can get a decision, or do you need the machine to give you the results? All of these questions will eventually lead you to the right instrument. One tip that I can give you that will help you with your decision is going to what's called the Assure project. The Assure project is an initiative by the Natural Diamond Council, and it offers a kind of unbiased testing that they are doing for all the machines in the market. They started with this program saying to all manufacturers, give us your machine, we will do the test on 1,200 diamonds. 1,000 of them are naturals of different types, 200 are lab growns of different types. If the manufacturer claim that it also work on simulants, they have also 200 simulants to be tested. And the results are being published online. Simply just Google Assure Diamond and you will find it as the first result. And you can see the results for every machine that they tested here. The Assure has two different cycles that they use in two different versions. One called Assure 1.0 that was launched in 2019. And it has a very vast library of machines that are available there. And the other one is Assure 2.0. It's actually an updated version from the end of last year. In this new version, they changed a little bit the structure. They added up-to-date lab growns, and also they added what they called soon to be found in the market. Also, they added new tests. They want to check now, they are also checking now stones that are mounted. and also they are checking for the consistency of the results for each stone. Now, the Assure 2.0 library is very small. As of yesterday, there are only 3 machines that are being shown there. The problem is that I know for sure that other manufacturers also submitted their machines to test in the Assure project. And usually the Assure testing is taking several weeks. So there is a good chance that some of the machines that you see in Assure 1.0 are getting bad results in Assure 2.0, and because of that, they were sent back for improvements before they will be published with the less complementing results. Now, it's very important that when you are talking about Assure, remember that if you see this label, Assure tested, it doesn't mean that the machine had great performance or the Assure program endorsed it. Assure is not endorsing anything. Assure tested just means that this machine was submitted for testing in this program. And if you want to see the real results, go to the Assure and open their file. But almost every manufacturer that I know in the market has the same marketing technique. They are looking on the results that they got in the Assure, which is a list of many, many different tests, taking one row that complements them specifically against their competitors and using it as a kind of a marketing. So if one of your manufacturers is telling you, I got 100% in Assure, I can tell you that there are hardly devices that got 100%. Probably he got 100% in one row in one of the tests, and this is the one that he likes to market. Always go by yourself to the Assure Diamond project, check the entire table of results that this tool got, and you will get the real results of it. To summarize, in my opinion, having one screener is a must. But if you want to be ready for everything, have 2 different screeners, 2 different diamond screeners, and they must be of different technologies. Second, the operator must be aware of the limitations and weaknesses that we just mentioned. It's very important. And if you have conflict between 2 results, go with the machine that you are feeling more confident with the findings there. And if you still have some doubts or getting inconclusive results, I suggest you will send it to a laboratory for testing. My recommendation is going to one of the big brands of laboratories, the ones that you know for sure that they have the instrumentation and the knowledge that allows them to identify it correctly. Thank you very much. I'm always finishing by saying that you just need one undisclosed lab-grown diamond in your business and the resulting shaming from it to kill your entire resume. I'm also inviting you to our band jeweler workshop at the end of March. Over there, you can hear this presentation a little bit more elaborated with some samples and hands-on demos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guy, and thank you for keeping it within 1 hour, your presentation. We'll have now time for questions, but first to compliment you, and I did, I think, I don't know, 70, 80 webinars in the last 4 or 5 years, maybe more, with Dusan, 2 books, and half of them were on laboratory grown diamond, believe it or not. And I'm still interested to hear different opinion, different angle, and I enjoy your angle, and definitely enjoy your charts that you mention reactions of different instruments in a simple table. So this is really excellent for people who are in this business. And I think if you continue like this, you will qualify to be one of my instructors if you want online. You did a very good job in talking. And what I like, you demystify this. People wants one instrument, give me the cheapest one, the best one to buy. Here, $5,000. It doesn't exist. And this is, you demystify, you agree with me and what we are talking in the books with my co-authors. And but sure testing, very excellent. So let me read some questions and some comments from people, and of course we'll hear more. And I think it's a compliment that you had almost 100 people, like very close. Only one person did over 100. Sorry, it was me when I started my book on lab-grown diamonds. So if you're okay with the silver medal, it's good on webinars.
Being second to you, it's a compliment. Yes. Thank you very much.
Still young. You're still young, so you can still do your things. So Gary Holloway, our colleague from Australia, who did a lot of research on cut, mentioned that when I put image of Moissanite and Hudson arrow, that is not Hudson arrow image, it's ideal scope image. And he's right. Gary gave me this. Actually, I was even selling this on my website. Ideal scope is developed by Gary, and definitely he's right about that. I like this one because you can do it on jewelry as well, not only loose. So it's a very useful instrument. So anonymous attendees, very interesting question, I think, to you. You said, Guy, some fancy shapes can influence the short UV transmission and produce compromised results. What does shape have to do with the results?
Okay, so first of all, shortwave UV, I'm just reminding everyone, shortwave UV can be absorbed by type 1A stones with nitrogen aggregation, and usually through type 2A, it can go freely or with very low interference. What happens here is that when you're using the handheld device, those that being held by the hand and you are touching usually the table facet, you are relying on the total internal reflection of the diamond inside. With round diamonds, it's very easy. The shortwave UV, like visible light, will go through the total internal reflection rule and will reflect from the inner facets of the pavilion. But once you are going to fancy shapes that they have more extinction, more areas that actually allowing the light to go away outside from the pavilion and not reflecting back, you are increasing the chance that light will not go through the table back to the detector, and because of that, the device will think that these diamonds absorb the light.
Okay, yes, this is a good answer. Thank you. I was reading in order, so we cover all questions. There's one comment about source Geometrics is using. This is a question for manufacturer Geometrics. I don't know exactly. I want to give this information. But will this presentation be available to replay on YouTube or some other source? I guess people like to listen again. And within 4 to 5 days, my webmaster, David Lazic, and my education partner, supporter, will put it on our website. You can download for free. And it will be on YouTube channel, BrankoGems, with other maybe 20, 30 free webinars that we did in the past, and some of them had a few thousand views on laboratory grown diamonds. So this is an interesting question. Can HPHT diamonds have negative cubo-octahedral crystal inclusions? This is, I don't know, complicated, but...
So from what I know, at least, of course, if someone has different information, he is more than welcome to correct me. But from what I know, there is no report of such inclusions in lab-grown diamonds yet.
Yes, in early production, when I started in 2000 to see first diamonds and certify first diamonds in New York, there were a lot of them, especially yellow and blues, because at that time, no colorless. They have cubo-octahedral zoning when they're growing them. This was quite common at that time. Technology was not so developed, and it was easy to separate. Even we have these charts in the first edition, 2003, of this book.
That's true, and
talking
it
about
was
this,
very
but
common.
Now no more anymore, because they really, I don't see even fluorescence with cubo-octahedral zoning, cross marks, not anymore.
You still can find it, but
Yes.
but mainly on colored diamonds and not
Color.
colorless.
It's red. Yeah, right. Very good. Randy Lightfoot, actually one of our instructors, you will see later our program. He's a great lecture. Regarding nitrogen aggregation, do you think there could be technology in the future that could diffuse and aggregate nitrogen in lab grown to resemble entry centers? So basically,
Okay.
some of these machines that are spectroscopy will be full.
Okay, so the answer is no, there will be no technology. It's already exist. The technology is existing. The problem is that you just need to do a very, very long HPHT post-growth treatment in order to accelerate or force the nitrogen atoms to migrate and bond into pairs, which is what we call 1AA. It's already possible. I think also Dushan talked about it in one of the previous webinars.
Yes.
But it's not commercially viable, so you're not finding in the market. I can tell you that I asked one of my vendors to prepare one specifically for me just to have it and know exactly how it reacts.
Very good. Just to add to this, 2001, 2002, when first CVD came on the market, again, I was just lucky to be in New York and see first from Apollo and tested and published with Thomas and Professor Fritsch in Joint News Asia. We did experiments of heat treating brown CVDs and testing with advanced instruments. At that time, we didn't have everything in New York. So I sent to labs in Japan. Thomas was doing SSCF. So we found after HPHT treatment, tiny entry centers is formed in a CVD diamond due to tiny aggregation of nitrogen. Of course, it's a tiny and still maybe if software designer, software program designed that way that doesn't detect tiny entry, it will refer that stone as a CVD. But this definitely post-treatment can help developing entry centers. Very good. Another comment or question from Gary Holloway, the graining in natural diamonds, he means octahedral graining, is far more common than labs report. He's saying that not all labs are mentioning graining, especially if it's a low quality diamond. Is this a simple test to look at the graining and say this is natural diamond, has a octahedral graining? A lot of argyle diamonds has a pink graining.
Yeah, so graining can be used to identify natural diamonds. It's more, it's not about the color, it's more about the shape that they are creating. Sometimes the graining can be aligned with the rings of a structure of the octahedron. Once you see this one, you can identify it. Same thing, graining can be found also, as just Branko mentioned, in HPHTs, but usually they will be in the form of either a square or a cross. So this could also be another hint, but be very cautious with that. If you just see lines, don't go to any of the directions.
Okay. Our colleague and friend Adolfo de Basilio from Madrid said excellent presentation and very precise. Just to mention, Adolfo Basilio translated this book in Spanish. We were looking in the Spanish market because a lot of South American people are Mexican and Spanish looking. So maybe next year, hopefully, if find sponsor or interested person, company, we will put it on the market for Spanish speaking
Muchas
people.
gracias, Adolfo.
Yeah. Oh, very good. So Matt Winner, our colleague from Utah, who used advanced instruments and screen type 2 diamonds, asking, did the Shure 2 include MAGI EXA or GIA ID 100? I don't know if you're aware of this or not. Okay,
so I don't know if GIA or MAGI Labs submitted their machines to there. I just know from specific 2 vendors that submitted their machines to there, and the results were not published. So probably they had some issues and they went back to the drawing board.
Yes.
But I cannot, I prefer not to say names.
Yes, I mean, if somebody from RG listen this lecture, they can put in a text, we can say it. I'm not aware also, I'm not going to tell for them. Two questions from the Basel Gem Lab from India, actually also doing education, and I might go to India at some future to do workshops. with local labs and other labs who are there. We'll announce maybe at the end of the year. So 2 questions. Can type 2A diamonds has blue fluorescence, and is high boron generally blue? I mean, he means color. How can it be colorless? I mean, I can add if you want to answer first, and I can add to this.
Okay, so first question. If lab-grown diamonds can be blue, type 2A.
First question was, can type 2 diamonds has blue fluorescence? He means,
okay, so blue fluorescence is created by nitrogen aggregation, which means it's type 1A. Sometimes you might find in nature mixed types, meaning some of the atoms inside are type 2A, or some, let's say, region within the diamond is type 2A and another region is type 1A. But then again, you will see probably also zonal fluorescence accordingly. What was the second question?
Let me just add to this. You're right, but it's all question of, say, agreements. And if you look at this book, Diamond, it is more scientific, more advanced, and Professor Collins and Zaitsev talking about spectroscopy and techniques. It's agreed, for example, what is type 2A, what is type 1 by infrared spectroscopy, correct? For example, let's say less than 5 parts per million. So, okay, you can say this is type 2A, but usually we call it low nitrogen diamonds. They could have a tiny bit of blue fluorescence. They could. All depends how strong is the source of that UV fluorescence.
That's true.
If you put a regular PL inspector, Joule inspector is non or very weak. If you put in X, what is a strong 365 nanometer, you can see blue, even in type 2A diamond. So it's all question of that. And of course, my experience and Dusan Vidotov experiments of changing color of natural diamonds type 2A. After HPHT treatment, they're gaining tiny bit of weak or medium blue fluorescence. So be careful with that. If you see blue fluorescence as type 2A, I'm not saying all the time, but could be HPHT treated. Okay, now next question is high boron. Usually gives a blue color to the diamond. Can it be colorless? Is a question with the boron.
Okay, so the answer is yes. Maybe it will have some shade of blue if you will do, you know, a kind of a color grading. You will see it inside the white paper. You will see a kind of a tiny, very weak blue shade.
Yes.
But you can find them. Many of them have gray shade, and they are quite common.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, again, it's all question of what level you are testing it. If you're looking just with standard instruments, you cannot see this boron, of course. But if you're checking with the infrared spectroscopy, it's more sensitive. I've seen in E-color diamonds from New Diamond Technology, a tiny bit of boron in infrared spectra. So does it make it blue? It's colorless. So answer is yes. Could have boron and be colorless, but mostly HPHT grown. What I know, and CVD is more complicated. They can add
yes,
it.
I will just add here that most of the HPHTs have some level of boron because they are using it as part of the growing process.
Yes, correct.
They found that when they are adding boron inside, they are getting better clarity results and faster growth rate.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, it's a win-win situation. They are not thinking about screening and everything.
Yes, and Julia Griffith, our colleague from UK, who is also teaching instructor
Hi, Julia.
academy. Yes, we met, of course, in Vancouver and Tucson. Hi, Guy. Thank you so much. Excellent work. You mentioned that some CVD producers are creating laboratory-grown diamonds that lack typical strain. Do you know such a producer? Wouldn't mind one for my collection.
So first of all, I'll tell you a truth. One of my vendors, the one that gives me this type of goods, he is a kind of a second tier. He is buying from all around all the factories. He's buying their leftovers and polishing for us. So I don't know where is the source. If you need one sample, just contact me. We can arrange something.
Yes, same I can say with from my side. I keep buying and getting new samples. Before Tucson, I got 12 stone CVDs. Without fluorescence, with a little bit of strain. And so I always have a small samples, 10, 15 points that I just find on the market, you know, and then test them, and then they're available to sell as part of a collection I'm doing for my students. Anyway, Mike Schwab, what is Mike Schlamader from Swarovski? I think you know him. He was in conferences in Mediterranean and coming, and hopefully Mike will see you in Swarovski next year when we tour Swarovski factory. So a question from him. Do you know D-check from IGI? If yes, would that be the case for the multi-technology screening? And his compliments you for the great webinar. D-check.
He mentioned, again, I didn't hear the name of the product.
D-check, capital D, check from IGI. He means probably IGI lab. I'm not aware of this personally.
Okay, so I'm not sure which instrument are we talking. Maybe he's talking about diamond check, which is by GIA.
You mentioned D-check.
I don't know.
I know this screen.
And more than that, I prefer not to talk specifically on brands.
Okay, good.
And I'm talking more about technologies.
Yes. I know it used to be D screen from HRD, from small HRD, instrument. Yes. I don't know if they're producing anymore, but it was like 10 years ago, what I remember. I've seen them probably 30, 40 instruments. I have a chance to study only 11. As the same issue, I think the most value of your presentation and what I think is that you had access to more instruments than most of the gemologists that I know, because you're a Stuller, part of Stuller, and you're selling instruments. So I think this is great. I couldn't get access to some of them because I have to buy them, and I'm not going to buy all instruments to test. So yes, we cannot know everything. One good question, I guess, a classic question. What is the most difficult LG to identify for you?
So I'll tell you that
from Adolfo.
The biggest issue for us at Stuller is that we are also identify the growth technique. Now, it's not problem. We can identify it too, which are CVD that were as grown and not HPHT treated because they have a very low silicon vacancy defect inside, which is something that we are looking at. The problem is not by identifying it, the problem is time. As we said, we are screening more than 10 million diamonds a year. And if every stone will take for me more than 5 minutes because I need to cool it down to minus 300 degrees Fahrenheit, then it's becoming difficult. It's difficult from efficiency side and not from identification.
Yeah, I mean, I can answer from my side. I guess CVD without fluorescence and the strain that looks like natural type 2A that could be similar looking when it's post-treated is the difficult on the standard level. Then you have to go to advanced. And as you know, not all CVD is showing 737 defects. Yeah. And this is another problem. Then you have to go to another level of fluorescence imaging. So there's always answer. And I'm glad guys like Marjorie Labs and other people who are doing research always putting new instrument. And we saw in Tucson another one product. So it's always I'm not saying the race, but it's always they're producing the stones, and then people who are testing, trying to identify, and then goes like this race or game. Okay, question from Julia. Two of them, one of them is not really. I guess I will read both to be more clear. Follow up on Randy's question: is the starting material, he meant one that producing entry center, colorless or nucleoless type 2A or type 1B, regarding HPHT treating stones to create entry center? I guess when they do CVD, what I know, the brownish stones, and they HPHT treat them. What I know, it was off-color stones.
Yes, there are several manufacturers that can do today colorless CVDs as grown. Yes. Not a lot, but there are several that already masterized the recipe to do that.
Yes.
The starting material is type 2A. It's colorless, and they are kind of doping the diamond with nitrogen throughout the HPHT process. It's not enough to make it type 1B. It's a little bit, and they are continuing with the process without taking it out or doing it with cycles before it will be broken or shattered, and then they created the bonding and adding this type 1AA structure inside. But they are not starting as 2A and moving to 1B. It's just kind of one big process from one side to the other, from 2A to very low, from 2A to very low 1AA.
Mm-hmm. Yes, correct. I guess in the same direction. I guess we kind of get people worried about this possible HPHT treatment and creating entry center. I mean, he's asking Gary Holloway, how much does it test cost for this? How big was it? I don't understand how big was it, I guess, instrument or test, I guess.
How much does it take to screen our diamonds?
How much it costs
I can say that
to check these difficult stones, I guess, that has a entry center, I guess.
Just, you know, it's the price of the gemologists that working on it, plus the investment on the instruments. I can say that we invested more than $600,000 just on machinery.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there's also, I estimate when to start a good laboratory with all instruments, you need $500,000 for sure to get everything sensitive spectrometers. So, I mean, there are labs who are testing, Gary, just, we can talk about this over the phone, or co-testing just for origin to tell if it's natural or synthetic. I'm getting here, but as well, all the parcels or single stones. Of course, single stones, it's more expensive, larger stone, but parcels should be relatively cheap to check small diamonds. We didn't even talk too much about that, but no time. You have so many questions. What is good? Alberto Scorani from Agile Labs. Ciao, Alberto.
Ciao.
Saying we are still discussing with Assure about submitting the EXA. They're a little bit slow. We should have a meeting next week. So this is the answer on that question about EXA. As you can see on the back, I'm using it. I like it. And the next week, for those Canadians who are here or New Yorkers, I'm doing a big workshop in Toronto, 27th of February, bringing EXA with me, because my steps are, I'm not saying the best, but I can check, I don't know, you diamonds in 5 minutes. I'm not saying always 100%, but with 3 different instruments, 3 different techniques, I'm much better to find the answer and experience. One is the fluorescence, of course, is the first screening technique. One is cross-polarized filters as a second one to back it up, to see something more. And one is EXA. Again, this is my way to do it in 5 minutes, one stone. And usually I get the answer, of course. Then I sometimes I have to go to infrared or other techniques. So a lot of questions, but we're almost there. Gary Holloway, 405 chip torch or laser, is it the best tester? He means 405 laser to check your diamond.
Okay, so there is no one laser that is perfect. If you want to cover all possible results, you need to have several ones. We, for example, using the 532 because it's very good to identify some photoluminescence effect of a post-growth HPHT treatment and some silicon vacancy defects and other defects that are related to CVD. 405 could be great if you want to check for the blue fluorescence, because it is much stronger than any other UV source, and usually because this blue effect is creating is also shifting a little bit into the visible range, 405 should excite it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess the shorter the wavelength, you have more interesting results and more.
Yeah, it depends. It depends what you are looking for. Every feature needs a different light source.
I'll read together 2 questions from Matt Winnard. In regards to your discussion about type 2A determination, would the guy agree that we should determine diamond type with only FTIR, what is a Fourier transmission infrared, than any secondary reaction found in any of these screening machines? This is first part of the question.
Okay. Some cases in these machines, can help you to identify the type 2A to some level of confidence. But eventually, if you want to make sure that you know what you have, and maybe you have some mixed types, and you see just the dominant one through the other machines, it's always better to go to FTIR to verify it.
Yes, just one my experience from really last week. I have a customer here, give me 11 stones, small stones, like a 10 to 20 pointers. He said with one of the, I'm not saying mention the brand because we're not talking about brands, but one of the $600, $500 screening tester that are screening for UV transmission. I'm not mentioning the many of them, yeah. So they are all 11. He said saying type 2 diamonds, yeah, based on UV transmission only. Yeah. 11 stones. I guess out of 100, whatever, how many he had. He gave me 11. All 11, they're nice, beautiful, no problem type natural diamonds. I put just 2, 3 on my infrared. What is the problem? They are low nitrogen diamonds. They're type 1A, A, B, but low nitrogen and unusual fluorescence or no fluorescence, like orange, yellowish. So this, as you mentioned, this transmission cheaper instrument will just refer it, you know, too much. In my opinion, at least
it will refer
10%.
it, or even some devices will call it moissanite because of this, with this unusual fluorescence that actually masking, saturating the detector.
Yes. So basically, yes, it's wrong to use this as a type 2A. It's not type 2A by any means. Even pattern is not type 2A. So anyway, and then second part of question of Matt is many natural type 2 diamonds will screen into natural pile pass via GIA and MAGI-EXA. My opinion, because in even type 2A can show entry center visible enough that the software will pass it.
Yes, in fluorescence spectroscopy devices, the idea of the pass is just having some level of N3 defect.
Yeah.
Many of these type 2A are not really type 2A, as you just said, Branko. They're actually low aggregated nitrogen, but it's enough to create the N3 and identify it with the fluorescence spectroscopy devices. Yes,
I mean, all depends on a machine. For me, Margin Labs referring less than other machines, but this is me using them a lot. And anyway, now a few compliments again. Guy Holloway gives me excellent and honest and researched presentation. I think I agree.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you did you didn't kind of push one instrument or another or one techniques. What it's in agreement of our books and this. We're not saying buy this one, buy that one. We're just saying this is what we see. As a gemologist, there's some problems. There's some good things. And I like it that you didn't, you said it's up to you which one you will choose. I just can present. So this is what I can also tell. And Alberto saying his personal experience that almost 50% of natural type 2 diamonds have enough entry to show up in fluorescence spectroscopy. This is very good experience from somebody who is using this a lot or design it with Mikko Armstrong. So I agree. That is good to check them by infrared, but this is what we have. Okay, so this is of course, if you have more questions, you're welcome. If you have another 5 minutes, but what I will do now, I will just finish presentation. I will reclaim the host from Guy if he allowed me. Let me see if I can reclaim it. So Guy, maybe you need to give me host back.
Yes, one moment.
I just want to put a few more slides of what's happening next. I know I kind of spoiled you with all these webinars in the past, so I'm not going to disappoint you. I'm stopping with webinars. I'm not. I'm continuing. The only difference is that it will be part of the academy now. We have a BrankoGems Academy coming next month, and there I stopped. I stop here, and let me continue with what we did in the past. In the past, of course, book is the very good reference for any of these instruments because it's showing you some tips, some tests. I wish we can update our book every year because every year things changing, but we did another book after that. Miko Armstrong from Agile Labs and Dusan Simic, and a lot of 19 speakers are part of this intermediate Diamond Academy that is still possible to get on a flash drive with the book and exam, but it will be part of the intermediate Diamond BrankoGems Academy that is coming this fall. Beside Guy Borenstein, who was one of the 15 or 20 people around the world who took this advanced program from 4 continents, we did last year with the presentation from the really best people in Diamond world who are listed here. Besides John Chapman, who is also editor of our conference, we have Zaitsev, Tejin Lu from China, Victor Vins from Russia, Miko Armstrong from Finland, Thomas Henschwagen from Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Alan Collins from London. We did try to cover diamonds as much as we can as a textbook. Gemme is also selling this in England, who is from England, and other schools. What is new? New is the online BrankoGems Academy. I realized today again how it's important to have instructors with the lab experience, talking about working in the gem labs. I'm one of them, Elena Diljanin as well. Dan Campbell from USA, a former GI resident instructor and director, he's also working in GI lab. Randy Lightfoot, he was doing webinar in November, is still available on cross-tolerance filters and other techniques, also working in GIA and also being instructor. And of course, Dr. Laura Kiefert, she worked in SCCF, AGTA, and Goblin Labs. All these people will be instructors of the basic, intermediate, and advanced diamonds and gems. And we'll have this top expert that I was mentioning from the book, plus fun turquoise expert from New Mexico, Joe Lowry. It's starting March 10 and March 17 for those who wants to try. Not all of you did all gemology programs, and if you did it, you did a long time ago, so it's good to refresh. And beside being small classes, we are sharing our experience of shortcuts. We're not going to repeat things on the internet or in the books. We're going to make it to the point. 6 lectures on basic, 6 lectures on intermediate, 6 lectures on advanced. And hopefully every Friday from March to June, they have a break. September to December, have a break, and then January to April. We're finishing all programs, everything online. I want to thank David Lazic for putting all this information online, and you can check it on brankogems.com under Online Academy. This is the next one coming up. I'm opening with gemstones, basic level, source properties, a lot of gem quality, and Elena will talk about geology and diamond morphology, rough diamonds. We have to start from basics. There's a course there at the bottom, but who wants recorded version, who do working, it's less expensive, and hopefully you will join us. For those who cannot or prefer to do more advanced intermediate level, we do have next conference in Australia. It's already open registration. It's June 30th to July 3rd. Beside myself and Laura Kiefert, we're doing 2 workshops on diamonds and country of origin on gemstones. We have Dominic Mock on jade and Kim Hughes on opal. And something new is not here, just happened last week, antique jewelry workshop for those appraisers, valuers. And I think I'm now doing biannual Mediterranean conference for those who are expecting this year. Sorry, you have to wait until next year, but it's already done 95%. And you would, I think, appreciate we're going to the Emerald Mine first in Austria, visiting Swarovski Factory and Museum in Vathels, going down to Cavallese to do 3 workshops, basic, intermediate, advanced, and Magi Labs will join us with all their advanced instruments. And they have a new toy, or I'm joking toy. It's a good instrument, but still under $10,000. So it is portable advanced instrument, Magi View, that they will demonstrate on diamonds and gemstones. Hopefully we can find something in gemstones as well, not only diamonds. And we have a lot of speakers in Slovenia will do the lectures in Piran. I'm not going to list all of them, but you can see names from Austria, from Czech Republic, Austria, a lot of European speakers, of course, and myself. And we're going to go to small museum and small but important fair, gem fair in Slovenia on May 13 and 12. This is all I had to tell you. Let's see if there's any more questions. Otherwise, I would really thank again Guy, of course, for his great presentation and for putting us together. I think a lot of people came, and I think topic is still very important. And definitely we didn't finish with this topic. I think every year new instrument comes out, new type of synthetic comes. So I'm sure in the fall I will talk again about this topic in different angle. And maybe Guy, you will join us, or we can put part of your presentation as a warming up for the lectures.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about. Yes,
we'll talk more after. And again, thank you for coming, and really appreciate that you're supporting. At least we know that you're listening and you are a part of this. And see you at some other webinar. Ciao and bye to everybody.
Thank you very much for coming.
Bye bye.